We are live. Hi, everyone. Sorry about
Hi.
Hello again.
a little bit of a delay. Look who our guest is. It's
It's
Ren.
Ren Fairy.
We have Ren Fury here
Hi,
with us tonight.
everybody.
Oops, things are falling off my chair. We look at Kate. Ren. Everybody put through. I like the Rubik's cubes. I put those through too. Ren, we are so happy to have you here tonight, and
Happy to
it's
be here.
when you messaged and said you were interested, I was thrilled. We had such a good time with Lee. We had such a good time with Laura, and it is wonderful that you wanted to be on with us tonight. I know Philip and I got a chance to Zoom with you, and you told us some amazing things, really interesting things. I don't want to take
Mhm.
up any more time. I'm going to just give you the floor. People might ask you questions. I'm sure they're excited to see you. What would you like to tell the community about you, and maybe specifically how you got from where you started in life to the Neogenian?
Well, I started in life as a Roman Catholic. Uh, I was brought up Roman Catholic faith, and thought that was normal. And plus, my upbringing dealt with alcoholism too. So, um, how I was basically, lived this life where I thought everything was normal. Drinking was normal. Going to church every Sunday was normal. Going to CCD was normal. You know, and then at the age of 11, I all of a sudden questioned my dad's alcoholism. And that really started, kind of like being a little defiant in the terms of actually even my religion because you didn't question your parents.
Mm-hmm.
So I basically, so when I started going to Alateen and learning about me and that my dad was actually, sick mentally, that it was, more of like I'm taking control of my life, even though in high school, even in grade school, I was this huge science nerd, you know, it really, I'm going, oh, maybe I'm on the right path. And then when I was like about 15 ish, I started hearing about, the Dead Sea Scrolls, Gnostic texts. And it's like, well, so the Catholic Bible isn't the one true Bible because that's what we were taught, that the Catholic Bible was the one true Bible and there was no other Bible besides that one. And everybody else was following fake religions. Um, so that's what I was up, you know,
How
so I
did
was up.
how did you feel when you were reading did you read a lot of the Gnostic texts?
I read a lot of them, but I didn't kind of like understand them in a sense. More explains them so well that, I read them and it's like, and I was such a, we'll say, with a lot of doubt, like, are these real? Are these not?
But it made you question the fact that, oh, I was always taught that the Catholic Bible was the one book, and now wait a minute, there's something else out here. Um,
Yeah.
how did you sort of move away from Catholicism? How old were you when you sort of split?
A lot dealing with my teenage years, because I was in science and I was learning about philosophy and stuff. So I was really questioning a lot. I happened to bump into Nietzsche
Mm-hmm.
at that age, and really fell in love with his work. And it was like enlightening. And when they go, well, what science course are you going to take in college and what are you going to be? And I said, well, I want biology and can I throw philosophy in there too. So it was I was like slowly going away, you know.
Yeah.
And then when you heard about Einstein's God and Spinoza, and it's like, well, this is actually really cool because it fits my career choice on what I want to be, you know, having a God that's nature, you know, and I always felt this one with nature and all this, you know, I could tell you there's hikes where I felt like high as a kite because I'm walking in the woods, enjoying, you know, animals running around and what else not, you know, compared to everyday life living in southeastern Wisconsin, um, where I'm surrounded by people all the time. I just really enjoyed it. So
Yeah.
it was,
Did you catch the other day in I don't know which live stream of Morg's when they were talking about Spinoza's God, and I almost wrote in oh, Ren, that sounds familiar, right? Because you had just been telling
well,
us about that, but I didn't.
yeah, I always chuckle because it's like, you know, I don't say much in the chats, and it's like, you know, when they bring up Spinoza or Descartes and all this other stuff, and it's like, yeah, I can relate to that because I was like in that stage of doubt for years, you know,
Yeah.
even after my near death experience. It was like I had doubts because it
Yeah.
was like, am I still like in a coma? I didn't really wake up to a world that I left, you know.
Talk about your near death experience because I don't think you've talked about that to anybody in the audience. And I know Philip and I were very, very
Fascinating.
interested. Yeah, it's a very fascinating story. And if you'd like to share it, I think people will be
Oh, sure.
interested.
Well, when my near death experience happened, I was at the age of 22, and I
You
don't
had just
know.
had a baby not too much earlier.
Yeah, yeah, I had just had my daughter, and I left a very really sick relationship at that time, and I don't know if what they told me caused the near death experience is true because they said I had thyroid toxemia, but I have an underactive thyroid, which doesn't, you know, coincide with what I actually had. But what I can remember from my near death experience is, like I said, you know, leaving my body, and I wanted to leave my body as quickly as possible. But I can tell you this, when you leave, you take your feelings with you, like your feelings are part of you. And then you enter the white light, and it's kind of tunnel like. And as you're entering the next domain, it's like it starts breaking up like into like flashes of light, and you enter a void. And this entity that was talking to me, and it wasn't really like how we talk back and forth, it was more mental
Yeah.
than anything because you lose all your senses.
Right.
You know, you are just this huge thing of power, in a sense, is the best way I can describe it, that when you're there, everything is mental.
Yeah.
And even the communication is mental. Um, but the when I got, how can I say it, as I was entering this domain, the entity that was communicating with me told me, now remember, you're going to feel tons of overwhelming knowledge before you're going entering. And it's like, okay, what's going on here? And all of a sudden, this overpowering, like I knew everything, like everything and anything, you know, history, all these thoughts and math problems and everything. It was incredible.
Would you almost call it
And
like information download, like a all the information hitting you at once?
right, like it was like an overwhelming power. It was like, wow, you
Pe-
know.
People are commenting and saying that they this is amazing, incredible. I love this.
Mhm,
I told you. I told you people would find this amazing. I was so intrigued because the idea of experiencing the white light, which people have talked about quite a
mhm,
lot. You hear that a lot, which is experiencing everything together is just white light. It's that's
mhm,
it. That's it. That's the experiencing the source, but also this other experience where you you experienced all of everything but in a different way, all of the knowledge of everything.
mhm,
And it that would sound like it's sort of like all the information of the holos together all at once, immediate.
Mhm.
And that is very cool. And there's been other kinds of what was that movie? The one of the ones with the Raiders. I'm sure there's been lots of other.
there
But
was
the
Flatliners, which was
oh, did
BS.
they talk about that too? But that idea of getting all the knowledge at once. I'm
I'm
thinking of
not
the
sure.
Harrison Ford, Raiders of the Lost Ark, the one with is it with the crystal skulls, and
Oh,
No,
Crystal Stone.
it was Crystal Skull,
the
yeah.
one where Kate Blanchett's character gets
Mhm.
all of the information and it's too much and she explodes or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's kind of, but you obviously didn't explode. So
Oh, or that one movie, I forget what it is, where this girl gets all the knowledge and everything changes. Oh, what is that movie called?
Oh, is that Lucy?
Yeah, Lucy.
oh yes, that's right. How did that, oh, she ended up at the end of it, I can't remember. Isn't that awful? I can't remember the end of the movie. Didn't she
Mhm.
end up having, like, becoming one with something, or what happened to
I,
her at the end of that movie? Did
I
she,
thought it was like one with the universe or something
something
to
like
that
that?
extent.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell us more what happened after that, or is
Well,
that
the main reason why I came back was because of my daughter. I I knew what kind of monster I left and how laws were written. I didn't want my daughter to go through that alone. And even though it hurt me really deep down inside too, to actually leave and come back,
Interesting.
you
yeah?
know, because I wanted to protect my daughter. I always gave my daughter the option to choose, explore religion, explore different concepts. I'm never going to tell you what to believe in, but explore what she wanted to learn. She's a Luciferian right now. So,
So you
I
came
just
you
left.
came back for her.
I came back for her.
Yeah. This is just a little aside, but it reminds me of something my husband told me about an experience he had being out. This was not a near death experience, but it was out of his body, an out of body experience. I don't think he
Hmm.
would mind if I shared it. And he was out of his body, and it was against his will. I think he was sort of taken out of his body anyway. He saw his body through the, it's not through physical eyes, obviously, it's through the mental senses.
Hmm.
And he said it looked like it reminded him of an old abandoned car in the middle of a field. That's what it
Hmm.
seemed like. It was just so weird. And the expectancy was that he would not go back, that he would continue to go with the entity that had being, whatever, that had gotten him out of his body. But he said, no, I need to go back. I have things to do. He fought to go back, kind of like you
Right.
had said you did. And the response was not you can't. It was more confusion as to why would you want to.
Right.
But he was allowed to go back, and he said it
Mhm.
was painful and hard to do, but he did go back. He had things he wanted to do. I don't know if he regrets it or not, but anyway, that reminded me a little bit of yours.
I know you can't see the chat, Ren, but Lee said that very powerful anchor that was able to keep you localized, something other than just your physical avatar acting as an
Mhm.
anchor, and that is very powerful.
Yeah.
Your daughter, yes.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
he also said we shouldn't be afraid being attached to the holos. I think if we want more focused, conscious awareness to localize us, to have larger faculties and greater faculties of mind, then we're going to need powerful anchors to keep us here.
Hmm.
I think one of the reasons that we have people in general have a very, very strong fear of death, very strong, is because if we knew the reality and that we are eternal, I think people would have some hardship, some struggle, and they'd say, "Oh, enough of this one. I'm just going to start a new one." I think that's what keeps us. I think it's a necessary element that keeps us here. I mean, and the will to live is very, very strong. That
Mhm.
And Elise also said, thanks for sharing that, Ren. I had a somewhat similar experience with my near death experience and came back because my kid. And there's
Mhm.
also two questions for you. Laura, Flower Dragon, said, Ren, if you had not come back, did the entity tell you what would happen? And would you go into something like the death stream? And then also, Kate Paul has a similar question. Do you think that entity was your higher self?
Oh, good question. Good
Ooh.
question.
What do I think the entity was? Well, for me to actually come back, I had to go through the entity to come back to the holos by giving them a kiss.
Interesting.
I do not know, and I'm going to say this because it was not, I don't, like I said, I don't know
Fair enough.
who, I
That's
don't,
that's yeah, that's reasonable to say you don't know. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
perfectly reasonable.
Yeah.
because it wasn't a void state and it wasn't a DMT.
Yeah.
It was literally, if it was a DMT, I would say my higher self. But because it was a near death experience,
Yeah.
I don't know what.
That I don't know is a fair answer. I think it's so interesting. And they're saying thank you for sharing. Laura said there was a woman in a Star Trek episode that joined everything, had the choice to stay in the Holos, only not called that. And did she, she did join that? I'm not familiar with that episode.
I
I don't,
actually remember that episode vaguely. Vaguely.
yeah. Um, uh,
So,
I'll,
how would you say that kind of shifted your perspective into becoming Neogenian? So, I
Um,
know you said that it changed your life and you had a lot of stuff happen after that, but how did you end up with Neogenian, or Hyperionism is what it was at the time?
well, to finish the story, I had to go through, and the weird thing was that I ended up with complete amnesia, which is coincide with the Neogenian concept of what happens. And I didn't know who my daughter was. I was playing with a kid that I didn't even know whose kid that was. I didn't know my parents. My doctor, which was actually part of my parish that I belonged to, was in the room, and you know
Wow.
how did
it's wild.
um
And it took
when I
time, right? It's not like you got your memory back after 4 days or
no
something.
no it took, well, they had me in the psych ward
Oh my God.
by then,
Wow.
because I told them exactly what happened to me, and they put me in the psych ward, and it's like, well, you didn't see God. It's like,
Yeah.
well,
But meanwhile, you're like, I know what I experienced. I'm not saying what it is. I don't know, but
I'm.
still.
It's like, you know, and then to even get out of the psych ward because they put you on psych meds, I kept on telling myself, you gotta use reason and logic. You gotta get out of here. Just say something, reasonable, so they would get you out.
How
I
long
mean,
was it before you first started remembering something and recognizing someone?
and that took a lot of work. Um, without being kind of like told and whatever. Well, my
Well,
brothers and sisters just rubbed off on me. And so did my parents, because my family all live in the same community I do. Um, it took quite some time. It really did, because I was kind of like doing it on myself. And when I would talk to a psychologist, they said, because I was like already classified as a codependent, you know,
yeah.
they would say, "Oh, these are codependent issues you're having." There was one that listened to my story and told me that I traveled really deep into my subconscious mind, was
Wow.
her what she thought, you know.
Interesting.
So people
Um,
around you, your family, were telling you your history. They were saying, "Do you
right.
remember this? And you did this, and you went here," and showing you photos probably. And then it
Photos,
slowly
photos, artwork,
everything.
anything. Yes, because in high school, I drew art and all this other stuff. They showed me pictures of myself. They even brought my ex-fiance, which wasn't my daughter's father. That,
Wow.
Anything and everything.
They
Yeah.
did everything. They even had Dave come over to my house constantly talking to me. It's like, oh, this is just great.
But eventually it started to feel like, yes, I recognize these stories
Yeah.
as memories that I
Hmm.
experienced.
Yeah.
Wow, that's just wild. I mean, I got to see what the comments are saying. Oh, Laura said yes, in the Star Trek, she did go and disappeared, sort of dissolved right there in front of everyone. Um, yeah, Lee said you had a memory wipe, or your brain uh, filtered your memories out. I think that was the word. Joanna said, "Oh, Ren, you remember? You know what is? Yeah, you remember. Oh, Kate said you remember the near-death experience, but everything else took time. So you could remember what you just went through, but everything else
Right.
was just like a blank. You know what I always find interesting is that you didn't lose language. You didn't
No.
lose. Isn't that interesting? That you're not, and it's not like you had to learn English again. You knew that.
Well,
Yeah.
all the weird things was that because I was like going back to college for my biology and my um philosophy degree, that
Yeah.
they thought I couldn't go back. And so I was enrolled into a different course, which was tool and die, or machining, and and I agreed to it. And the weird thing about the whole wire EDM concept is that we use Euler's formula, but more into a sphere, you know,
Yeah.
concept. And it came extremely easy for me to
Wow.
program these machines, and just,
So you
yeah,
were learning to do that while you still didn't even really know who you were.
right.
That's crazy.
That's cool.
So I was gonna say, for anybody who doesn't know, you said you're an engineer, right?
I guess I'm a wire EDM technician, engineer for aerospace.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And you were also a new mom at this time. I mean, like I can't. I just going through a whole new kind of schooling.
Hmm.
You gave up what you had been studying. Did the memory of that stuff come back to you because you had been studying philosophy and you had been studying
That
biology?
actually kind of came back a lot because I think what my mind really is something very scientifical and very mathematical,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
and very artistic, which even they took on when I was in school because they put me in two different programs. One was gifted and talented, the other one was a learning disability because she had a difficult I have a difficult of writing,
Oh,
you
yes,
know,
yes. Dyslexia.
dyslexia.
Yeah.
And so I was like in two concepts of two, opposite programs that,
Yeah.
because they
Yeah.
really pushed the math and science and the art with me in school. I mean, I graduated with extraordinary, a lot of credits in science.
Yeah.
I had chemistry, biology, advanced biology, um, um, astrology, some other physics, this, that, and the other. And when they came up to me and say, "Hey, what science class you want? You know the math and
Yeah.
science class. It's pick one."
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
figure that was my destiny. I'm going to be a scientist. Little do they know that once you become a scientist, if you argue about anything against their narrative, you can lose funding. You know,
Oh, yeah.
I'm it's like, and I was curious, hey, what makes up the world? That was my goal.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I I picked biology because I figured, well, physics is kind of dead. They're still arguing about this and that, and it's like I'll take biology. You know,
Yeah.
it just seemed like a smarter course to do and just do my own thing. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and the weird thing is, even people ask me, well, if you have this learning disability, how can you read books and stuff like that? It's like my dad, it was like we always went to the library. My dad read books to me. It was that.
Oops. We lost you.
Oh,
We
that's
lost
all
you.
right.
We can still hear you though.
1 second.
That's okay. I'm going to read some comments while you're fixing that because people are commenting. Laura said it just sucks how they put you in the psych ward. Yeah,
Mm,
I wonder how many people have been put in that for similar things and maybe never got out. And Lee said, very interesting. It's a literal rebirth. You reincarnated back into your body, and that's true. And and Lee asked, do you feel like you got your memories back? Or did you build a new sense of identity with everything and everyone around you? That's a good question.
Um, I actually feel that I got what I am going to get back because you can't remember, nobody can remember their whole life. Um,
Mhm.
and what even helped me, I did volunteer work, because I was a single mom. I had abusive relationships. I dealt with an alcoholic father and alcoholic relationships. So I worked at the abuse, what is called abuse friends of abused families. Because I had the idea of a welfare Christmas. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
so I help out at the food pantry and talking to other people on how you can get funding for education,
That's
or,
great.
stuff like that, and work with these people, you know, even just recently when I entered Neogenean, um, I was working with my sister at the bookstore. Not, I got paid by books, and um, I was the promotion director of her for promotion director for authors at her store, and I did that, you know, getting used to, even with the store was downtown West Bend, so we had this thing called the Downtown Society, and I was on the board of directors where we made decisions that helped with the downtown area. And we had this place called the West Bend Theater. It's called the Bend. And I think it was about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we were fighting to save this building from big corporations
Oh,
because they were going to tear it down and build I have no idea. But we fought to keep this building. Um, Redid the building with donations and stuff like that. Um, and we got a huge grant to redo the downtown to make it look back to what it did back in 19 something, 190, well, I'll just say 1901 or
cool.
whenever they started paving stuff. Um, when I was sitting on the board. So,
That's cool.
Yeah.
um, it
So,
was,
it's,
you know, oh, I'm sorry.
no. It's interesting. That's really good that you saved the building. I'm very much into that.
Hmm.
But Kate said something that I think you would want to hear. Kate said, "Oh my God, with your poetry, I would have never guessed you struggled with writing," with the emoji of the brain exploding. Because dyslexia is nothing to sneeze at. it
Hmm.
it is very difficult. Here, I lost this. That's a difficult condition.
It
That's
is.
talk about struggling and overcoming, to get to where you are and what you're doing.
Hmm.
Oh, there's been a lot more talk. I wasn't at the bottom here, but
Well, and the weird thing is you join a group of people that are like you, and you mostly sit here and talk through chat, and it's like it was like I felt like I've been silenced for the last, was it 2.5, 3 years? So it's like one of the reasons why I agreed to this is like a lot of people don't know who I am because now a
yeah.
lot of people want to hand out phone numbers and talk on the phone with you.
Yeah, well, I think
Yeah.
this has been a great opportunity
Hmm.
for everybody to hear your story, and I don't think anybody is disappointed because you had very interesting things to talk about, and it's been so. I can't believe that half hour went by so fast.
Hmm.
And again, just like we said with Laura, and of course we've had Lee on again, I hope that you will come back and talk some more, and
Oh,
maybe
sure.
we can have more group chats, in here. Um, there's always lots to talk about in the community, and I just love doing this series.
Hmm.
Again, yes, Cassidy, I will do you a coca. Um,
Oh, is Cassie in the chat?
Cassidy's in, yes, wants a coca. Oh, you're fixing your ceiling. Oh, we are sending you lots of
Hey,
support,
Cassidy.
lots of very, very supportive cocas for your ceiling, Cassidy, because that is not fun. Here. Oh, look, Cassidy,
Cassidy.
Oh,
look. This is for you.
Cassidy.
monkey, just for
Monkey,
you.
monkey for you, Cassidy. Ren had that waiting for you. Look at that. Oh yeah,
That's cute.
let we can do some quokkas for Cassidy in the chat too, but I'm going
And
to,
Joanna says, thank you for sharing your thoughts, Ren, with lots of the clappies.
You're welcome, everybody, and thank you, Joanne.
that was I'm really glad that you chose to share your near death experience, because just having those two experiences, I mean, it's awful what you had to go through.
Hmm.
um, I think when we have situations, when we, meaning the world, when people have experiences that are very difficult, like what you went through
Hmm.
afterwards, there's a lot of growth there. There's a lot
Hmm.
of, strength does come from overcoming those struggles. You wouldn't be who you were today without that. But
No.
having those two really amazing experiences of the
Hmm.
white light and then the experience of the everything, and fighting to come back for your daughter,
Hmm.
that's very powerful, very powerful. And I am thankful that you shared that with us.
Hmm.
I think everybody is. Oh, Fashida, yeah, you're delayed, but you know what? You got to go back and you got to watch the whole thing to hear Ren's story, because if anybody came in late, um, it's very interesting. And we're going to go, but
Okay.
again, uh, prepare to hopefully in the future again
Okay.
come on for more chats. We'll do some impromptu
Mhm.
stuff. I think this is the best way to do members
Mhm.
streams where we get to know each other, and then we can start to bring in maybe some concepts and discussions of things that you guys are interested in. um, Anybody else, again, Philip said it in the public one, people who want to be featured on here and share your story, even if it's just how you got to the Neogenian. That's I already have more people on my list, people who have reached out. You know who you are. And others, please either message me personally on Facebook or the Neogenian Oculus on Facebook, and Philip and I do a Zoom. It's really fun. We get to talk to you, which we really like. We get this little private
Oh yeah.
private talk, and we just really love this series. Jan, thank you for coming on tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, no
We
problem.
got
Thank you.
we
Yeah, thank you, Jan.
yeah, and thanks for coming in here too. We were really we're always happy to have you on, and
Okay.
the community loves to see you when you come on to our public ones. The talk tonight was something we were really interested in. I don't know whether we're going to do a live stream next week. We wouldn't have a members, but I have to talk to Philip. I don't know. We have to look at your work schedule again. If we can swing it, we might do one next week, next
Yeah.
Saturday as well. Just the normal hour public one. But I think that's it. Anybody else have anything final you want to say?
I don't think so. Thank you
I
for
don't
joining us,
I'm
know.
Ray.
good. Thank you all for
Then
joining us.
wave
Yeah.
goodbye. Yep. Thank you
Bye,
guys.
everybody.
See you when we see you. Check the Facebook page for for posts. Okay. Bye everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Okay.
And